Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Dana Villa from Chicago, USA. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis will travel to Hungary on an apostolic visit from April 28th through the 30th. This was announced by the Holy See Press Office on February 27. The civil and religious authorities invited the Holy Father to travel to Hungary's capital city of Budapest. This will be his 41st apostolic journey, making Hungary the 61st country he will visit since he began his pontificate 10 years ago. The visit will be marked by a meeting with members of a children's home, the poor, and refugees. Cardinal Peter Erdo, Archbishop of Esztergom, Budapest, has shared his joy over the planned apostolic visit of Pope Francis, acknowledging the significance of the visit taking place against the backdrop of the conflict in Ukraine. A new study published on February 22nd evaluates self-identification with the LGBT community based on responses from more than 10,700 people here in the United States collected in 2022. According to the new Gallup data, Generation Z is more likely than older Americans to identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender than heterosexual, which has resulted in a doubling of the percentage of Americans who identify as LGBT in the past 10 years. The share of the Americans who identify as LGBT reached a record of 7.2% in 2022 after hitting 7.1% in 2021, up from 5.6% in 2020. Generation Z, defined as the group of adults born between 1997 and 2004, has a much higher share of its population identifying as LGBT than its older counterparts. In a fresh appeal to the worldwide community, Archbishop Gintaras Gruas, president of the Council of European Bishops' Conference, called for action to put an end to the Russia-Ukraine war and silence the weapons. Holy Mass will be celebrated in each country throughout Europe to invoke peace in Ukraine and pray for those who have died as a result of the war. Archbishop Gruas said the European bishops and Christian communities will continue to pray for the victims of this war and their families throughout the Lenten season. He said since the beginning of the war, the churches in Europe have been calling for peace in Ukraine that would result in an immediate end to hostilities and a concrete commitment to restore justice, thus starting a true path of reconciliation. The funeral services for Bishop David O'Connell, the auxiliary bishop of Los Angeles who was shot dead, will be held on Friday, March 3rd. The ceremonies will commence on Thursday, March 2nd, with public viewing hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Cathedral of Our Lady of Angels. A vigil mass will be celebrated for Bishop O'Connell at 7 p.m. at the same cathedral on Thursday. According to the website of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, the funeral mass has been scheduled for 11 a.m. on the following day. Police haven't disclosed an official motive for the murder since the accused gave several reasons, and none of them made sense to any of the investigators. It was in 2015 that Pope Francis appointed Irish-born David Gerard O'Connell as auxiliary bishop of the Los Angeles Archdiocese. Yesterday, February 27, hundreds of demonstrators protested a proposed electoral law in the Iraqi capital Baghdad that would expand the size of the nation's electoral districts and perhaps undermine independent candidates. Each of the 18 provinces in the nation is divided into several electoral districts as per the new law. It was a major demand of the anti-government rallies that began in the late 2019 and was seen as improving the chances of independent candidates. The parliament is scheduled to examine the proposed law once more. The Coordination Framework, a coalition of Iranian-backed parties that makes up the largest group in the current parliament, which helped Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani win the election last year, supports the move. Monday's protests took place as heavy security forces surrounded the parliament and closed off Jumuriya Bridge on the Tigris River that leads to the government areas of the heavily fortified Green Zone. A bill that ends Disney's autonomy and places the media giant under the jurisdiction of a state board was signed into law by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday, February 27. The bill authorizes DeSantis, a Republican, to appoint a 5-member board to oversee the government services that the Disney district provides in its theme park properties in Florida. The quasi-government entity has also the authority to raise revenue to pay outstanding debt and cover the cost of services. The move comes after the Florida governor lashed out at the theme park's protest of the law restricting sexual orientation discussion in schools. The corporate kingdom finally comes to an end, DeSantis said. The governor launched the effort to topple Disney's self-governing powers following former CEO Bob Chapek's condemnation of Florida's Rights in Education bill. Critics slammed the company for coming out against the education law, calling it a purveyor of woke ideology that injects inappropriate subjects into children's entertainment. The Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA of the United States, is trying to allow pharmacists to ship out the abortion pill, but more than a dozen GOP state attorneys general this weekend warned big retailers against doing so. In case they continue to sell abortion pills from their counters, legal action would be taken. Attorney General Andrew Bailey, a Republican from Missouri, and 18 of his colleagues addressed a letter to retailers with pharmacies on Monday outlining the legal ramifications of heeding the Biden administration's recommendation. The Biden administration in early January developed a plan to change an FDA rule in a way that would allow companies with a retail pharmacy to apply for a certification to distribute by mail a 2-step abortion-inducing drug. This month, the Attorney Generals sent a similar letter to Walgreens and CVS pharmacy providers who said they intended to use the FDA's plan to sell the abortion pill. On Monday, February 27, they also sent a letter to Rite Aid, which announced they also plan to obtain and sell abortion pills using the mail. The 25th National Congress of the Spanish Federation of Pro-Life Organizations will be held on March 3rd and 4th with the belief that the wall of violence, ignorance, injustice, falsehoods, and manipulation of the culture of death must fall. According to the organization that unites more than 30 pro-life organizations in Spain, many experts connected to the safeguarding of human life will be involved in the event. The chosen motto of the event is, quote, "In the gap," end quote, and it reflects that everything that is going to be offered in Congress is in direct contact with reality. The organizers of the 25th Pro-Life Congress also point out that the gap refers to a wound that must heal from inside out. This comes as the Spanish government is tightening its curbs on pro-life activities and promoting a culture of death. Delegates from the state of West Virginia here in the United States overwhelmingly approved the resolution relating to preventing government restraints on the expression of religion after 2 hours of discussion. Where discrimination starts and how far religious freedom extends were topics of discussion on the House floor, and House Bill 3042 was approved 86-12. The measure offers a legal standard for those who claim that the government's activities have violated their religious convictions. House Bill 3042 says no state action may substantially burden a person's exercise of religion unless it's essential to a compelling government interest or the least restrictive means of furthering that compelling government interest. If the bill were to become a law, a person whose exercise of religion has been burdened may approach the court over the situation. The St. James Vicariate for Hebrew-speaking Catholics in Israel has published a statement by tour guides in Israel regarding the increasing cycle of violence in Jerusalem. Tour guides called on the authorities to bring to justice the captured attackers whose actions caused property and personal damage to the members of the Christian communities and harm Israeli society as a whole and the state of Israel. They also urged the Israel police to act decisively in every case of injury, minor or serious, to create deterrence and fear with potential offenders. The tour guides requested the Israeli government to engage in dialogue with social and religious leaders to promote tolerance. There has been an uptick in violent incidents lately in targeting Christian institutions and religious leaders. In Pakistan, Christian groups have joined opposition figures in calling for the postponement of two provincial assembly elections scheduled for April 9, which is Easter Sunday. The unilateral decision to hold the elections for the provincial assemblies of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab on Easter Sunday was condemned by Father Inayat Barnard, the chaplain of Caritas Pakistan, who also suggested that the public be informed of this unwanted announcement. Under Pakistan's constitution, provincial governors are the ones who announce new elections if an interim administration is not established within 90 days of the dissolution of an assembly. Father Bernard said the Christian members of the national and provincial assemblies should bring this presidential negligence to the notice of speakers and change the date. A Catholic priest, 3 nuns, and 2 other Christians were killed in a road accident in India yesterday, February 22nd. The gruesome incident took place at Sumer in Riboi district of Meghalaya state in northeastern part of the country. The deceased have been identified as Father Matthew Das, parish priest and principal of St. John's Higher Secondary School, and Sister Meglarine Dantes, Promila Turkey, and Rosie Nungrum of the Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima. Marian, a teacher and the driver whose identity has not been revealed, also died in the accident. The spokesperson for the Assam Christian Forum, Alan Brooks, stated in a news release that the forum was deeply saddened by the loss of innocent lives caused by careless driving. The forum has also asked the Meghalaya government for a thorough investigation into the cause of the accident and compensation to be paid to the families of the victims. A movie based on the life of noted Vatican exorcist Father Gabriel Amorth will be released in British theaters on April 14. Titled The Pope's Exorcist, the movie will come to the U.S. theaters a week later. Hollywood star Russell Crowe of Gladiator fame stars as Father Amorth, who conducted thousands of exorcisms during his service in the deliverance ministry. The Pope's Exorcist is among the most eagerly awaited films for 2023. In contrast to other fictitious accounts of exorcisms, this movie is based on the true account of Father Amorth, who looked into probable causes of possession at the Pope's request. It is based on Amorth's memoirs, An Exorcist Tells a Story, and An Exorcist More Stories. The movie has been shot by award-winning director Julius Avery in Ireland. Joining Crowe in the film is Daniel Zovato and Alex Iso, among others. Franco Nero plays the role of the Pope. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.